Hello and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well and welcome to another bookshelf scavenger hunt. And I love filming this video. I did one other variation of this for spooky season and I absolutely loved it, and I got feedback from you guys that you guys liked it as well. So let's do another one. And if you're not familiar with what this video is, it's essentially a fun little game to choose my next read, and I will be answering a series of 10 questions which will lead me to my next book, then to my next book, then to the next, until we get to the final book that we will be reading and reviewing together. I got this idea from Ellen Catherine. I will link her video down below if you're curious to see more videos like this, or just to kind of see like how she does her questions. I think my questions are exactly the same as hers though, because that's where I got my questions from, but I will link it down below just in case you are curious. I think this video is so fun because I get to pull a lot of the books that I've already read and just kind of like revisit them, re-recommend the ones I loved to you guys, and I think it's just like a really fun way to go through and chat about a lot of different books that you might not have heard of before, that you may not have seen me read in a vlog, and it's just a good way to bring them back up and mention them again, just so you guys get more recommendations if that's what you're looking for. Also, I do have an event today at Book People. I'm going to be going to see Kate Goldbeck. Kate Goldbeck is on her tour for her new release Daddy Issues, and she's also the author who wrote You Again, which a lot of people loved. I haven't actually read either of those books, but I'm planning on picking them up and getting them signed and hopefully reading those soon in like a future vlog, because I hear really good things about them. She gets really good reviews, so I'm very excited to meet her. So that's also going to be in today's vlog, in addition to me picking out my next read via the bookshelf scavenger hunt. So I'm going to be choosing one of these books as the final book. Hopefully the scavenger hunt works out that way, but I have 4 books left on my November TBR, and this is supposed to be basically choosing a book off of your current month's TBR. So I have Taurus Season, Mate, The Curse That Binds, and Willing Prey. These are the ones I still haven't read yet from my November TBR. And then I added these 4 because these are books that I wouldn't be mad about finishing this year. I would really like to get to these this year, but I'm not really sure if I'll have time for it. And those include Autumn of the Grimoire, The Housemaid, and One Killer Night. I also put Sinner's Retreat on here by Lauren Beale, and this is a summer book. It is about serial killers, I believe, but it is a summer book, and I wanted to read this one this year before Christmas time because the second book is actually a Christmas book, and I was hoping to get to that one in December, and I just unfortunately didn't get to this one this past summer. So if I do end up choosing that one, I also wouldn't be mad about that. So without further ado, let's start with the first question. And the first question is, choose a book with a cover that you love and find a book with a similar cover. So I just have to find a book with a cover that I love and something similar to that. So let's take a look at the shelves. I always gravitate towards my special editions, which is kind of what I want to do again today. These are just so pretty. I think I'm gonna go with this one. Okay, so for this question, I chose Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig because I absolutely love this cover. I love this special edition of this book and the first book as well. This is the second book in the Shepherd King duology. I have not read this duology yet, but this recently came out, I think maybe like last month or the month before that, in these special edition covers, which I'm absolutely obsessed with. I love that it's just simple, it's black, it's got the red on it, and it has this little thing right here that's from the original cover, like from the original paperbacks that came out, and I think it's just like so nicely done. I haven't read this duology yet, but I'm very excited to read it soon. So that's the book that I chose for a book with a cover that I love. And for a book with a similar cover, I chose Dear Reader by Tate James. It's kind of similar. I know that the writing is in gold, whereas this is in red, but I think it's similar in the sense that it's like all black, it's simple, it's kind of like peeking into something. Like this is kind of like peeking into this scene right there, and this is peeking into like a room right there, and it's just like black and red. And also on this cover, I don't know if you can see, it's not textured, but it does have like these black embossed circles on it, whereas this one has like black embossed writing over the black cover. So I thought that was also kind of similar. So that's kind of why I went with Dear Reader. And this is the first book in the Devil's Backbone series. This is a dark romance. Why choose? Kind of following like a secret society situation, which I thought was very interesting, and I had a pretty good time with this one. So I definitely want to continue this series because I did really enjoy this one. It wasn't like super dark or anything, but it was still like a fun, mysterious read. So if you haven't read this yet, this would actually be a pretty good time to read this as well, because there's a little bit of mystery in this regarding like the secret society and everything that's going on there. So I think it would be kind of like perfect for this time of year actually. So the next question is, turn to page 50 and find a book that has one of the words from the first sentence on that page in the title or on the cover. So I need page 50 and I need the first sentence on page 50. So the first sentence is, Carly scoffed a laugh, then ran a hand through her hair. That's the first sentence right there. So now I need to find a book that has one of these words in the title or on the cover. Okay, so for this one, I chose The Summer We Ran because it has the word ran in it. So that fits that question perfectly. And this is technically a summer book, but I would say you could actually read this at any point in time because it's more of like a political setting kind of book. It's a second chance where the two main characters know each other as teenagers. They break up and then they end up kind of like seeing each other again in the future when both of them are running for like a political position against each other. It's dual timeline with the past and the present, and I think I definitely like the past timeline better than the present timeline than like the political timeline. This book was okay, but it wasn't one of my favorite books. It does end up taking a turn in the story that I really didn't like. There's a trope in here that I really don't like, and I just didn't love how the characters kind of like treated their significant others. But besides those things, I really did like the plot line of like the past, of like how they got to know each other, how they got there, and everything happening there. Like that was very interesting to me, but it just didn't end all that well, to be honest with you. And I wouldn't say that I absolutely love this one. So then the next question is, list some of the tropes of that book and find a book with similar tropes. So this is like a contemporary romance, second chance, political setting. So let's see if we can find a book with similar tropes. Second chance. Okay, so we have a few options here. Let's do this, maybe this. What else was second chance? I honestly can't remember what else was second chance. So for this, I chose Left of Forever by Tara DeWitt, and this is the second book in the Spoons Oregon series, like interconnected standalone series. And this one I absolutely loved. This is the perfect time to read this book if you have not read this yet. This was like a 6-star read for me. I absolutely loved this book. It's like one of my favorite books of the year. And this is a second chance, kind of like marriage in trouble. And Ren and Ellis Bird are going on a trip together after they drop off their son at college to see if they can reconnect and kind of like, you know, figure out what went wrong in their marriage, because neither of them are feeling like they're kind of like done with each other yet. And this book is just so emotional, so beautiful, has so many beautiful quotes. I even tabbed a few that I absolutely loved. Like, pause and read that. This is just the most beautiful quote ever. Yeah, this book just has so many beautiful quotes. This takes place during like kind of like late summer through Christmas-ish. So now is the perfect time to read it because there are scenes in Thanksgiving, scenes at Christmas, scenes of like the New Year and stuff like that. So if you haven't read this yet, definitely pick it up. So let's see what the next question is. Now find a book with opposite tropes from your current read. So now I need to find a book with opposite tropes of this. So I think that would be probably a fantasy, not really second chance or anything, but maybe like enemies to lovers, perhaps. Let me take a look at the shelves. Bewitched is also kind of like a second chance marriage. So that's a similar trope book, but we need the opposite tropes. So that won't work. I don't think I talked about this one yet. Let's do that. So for opposite tropes, I chose The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. This is the first book in the Stonewater Kingdom. It follows the main character, Sybil, who is a diviner, and there are only 6 diviners in the town, and they basically kind of like can predict the future, or like you come to them to ask a question and they kind of go into this river, have to drink your blood, and then basically drowned, and then they see the answer. Like they're able to interpret what the answer is to that question. It's very interesting. She has a little friend in here that's the gargoyle. He's so sweet. He's like one of my favorite characters of all time, of all fantasy books I've ever read. And basically the plot of this is that the other diviners are starting to go missing, and so she asks the knight. They kind of like decide to help each other, even though they're kind of like enemies, rivals at first, because they don't get off on the right foot when they first meet. So it's the opposite in that sense because it's obviously a fantasy and they're kind of like rivals to lovers, something like that. So this is the one I went with. I absolutely love this book. This was another 5-star read. So highly recommend you read this one too if you haven't yet, because the gargoyle in this is so freaking cute. I loved him. Okay, what's the next question? So the next question is, reverse the page number of this book and then find a book with similar page number. So this book has 385 pages. I'm not counting the acknowledgments. Let me just cover up the ending here. 385. So I have to find a book with 583 pages. I decided to go with Offside for this one. This is by Avery Keelan, and this book has 567 pages, so it's kind of long for a romance, but we're only 20 pages off from what we needed. So I think this is a pretty good choice. I read this a while ago. Honestly, I don't remember what it's about, but it is a hockey romance. She gets broken up with her boyfriend on her 21st birthday. Like, her boyfriend breaks up with her on her 21st birthday. And I guess in order to make him jealous, she kind of starts having a little bit of a relationship with his rival. So it's like ex-boyfriend's rival kind of thing. But other than that, it was a pretty cute hockey romance. And now's also the time that everybody's kind of like picking up hockey romances. I think maybe like December, January, in the winter season, it's a good time to read hockey romances because I think that's when hockey season is. I don't really know. So this is the one I chose for this question. Let's see what the next question is. Find a book with a similar color scheme to this book. So we need blue, red, and beige. Blue, red, and beige. Do I have any beige books? Out on a Limb is pretty beige. Kind of yellow, but there's no red in it. Let's see. People watching. Brown, beige, green. We can do better. So for a similar color scheme to this, I chose Well Actually by Maisie Eddings, and I haven't read this yet, so I don't really know what it's about, and hopefully I won't need to know what it's about for the next question, but we'll see. But I do think that the color scheme of this is pretty close because it has a lot of beige in it, it has some red in it, like in the chairs and everything, and the blue is not exact, but his jeans are pretty close to that blue color there. Also, I thought that the font of the title is really close, like the way that it's slanted. It's obviously not the same color, but I thought it was pretty close. So we're going with Well Actually by Maisie Eddings. This is another new release this year that I heard is good, but honestly, I don't really know what it's about, or I don't remember from when I bought it. So let's see what the next question is, and hopefully I won't have to know what it's about. So the next question is find a book that was published in the same year. So that's an easy one. So this was published in 2025. I have a lot of books that were published in 2025, so let's see what we're gonna choose. Okay, so for a book published in the same year, I'm going with Silver Cloak by L.K. Stephen, and this one was published in 2025. As you can see right there. And this is essentially a fantasy with a very interesting magic system because everybody has magic, but the way that they kind of like replenish their well of magic is by either doing something pleasurable or something painful. Something pleasurable will like replenish their well, whereas something painful will essentially make their magic more precise. And there are two groups in here, the Silver Cloaks and the Blood Moons, and the Blood Moons are basically kind of like similar to like the mafia. They basically commit all the crimes, and the Silver Cloaks are like the police. And the main character in this, essentially her parents were killed by the Blood Moons when she was a little girl, and so she really wants to be a Silver Cloak. When she's in the Silver Cloak Academy, she then gets kind of assigned to infiltrate the Blood Moons. So she's working as kind of like a double agent. I thought this was really interesting. The magic system definitely is very interesting, and I did really like the plot of the story. So I'll definitely be continuing the series. This is called the Silver Cloak Saga series. So the next question is go to the first page and count the number of letters in the first word, and then find a book with a similar number of pages to letters in the word times 100. So if it's a 7-letter word, I need to find a 700-page book. So on the first page, the first word is 20, which is 6 letters, right? 6 letters, yep. So now I need to find a 600-page book. 600, I already had a 600-page book. I kind of don't want to do anything by SJM, although I'm sure some of these are 600 pages or more. Let's see. So for this, I'm actually going to go with Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher, and this is the second book in the Lakefront Billionaire series, and this is a romance that is 607 pages long, right there. So we're only 7 pages off, which I think answers this question perfectly. There really aren't that many romances that are 600 pages long. I think I have like a total of 2, to be honest with you. So this one follows Raphael and Ellie, and it's a single dad nanny trope. And this is another one that I kind of enjoyed. The next book in this did already come out, Love Arranged, and I do have it, but I haven't read that yet, so that's on my list to read. But this one was pretty enjoyable. I definitely liked the first book in the series, Love Redesigned, a lot more. That was a 5-star book. I really liked the setting of that one, and I really liked the characters and the writing and the banter. This one wasn't quite as good as the first one in my opinion, but still pretty good. So I'm going with Love Unwritten for this question, and let's see what the next question is. Okay, so the next question is find a book with the same number of letters in the title as the first number of total pages. So if it's a 700-page book, I need to find a book with a title with 7 letters in it. So this is 600 pages, so I need to find a book with a title that's 6 letters long. So let's go take a look. So for this one, I chose Enigma by Runix, and this is a dark gothic romance. This one follows Salem and Kaz, and they're both at Mortimer University, and she is trying to figure out what happened to her sister, I believe. I think her sister was killed or died or something like that, and she wants to figure out what happened to her. That's why she goes to this university, and weird things are going on because the same thing is happening to other students. So this one has really good spooky vibes, kind of mysterious. Perfect for the season right now if you still want to pick it up before November is over. Okay, so now the final question. Find a book on your TBR whose title or author name starts with the last letter of the previous book. So the last letter of this book is A. So let's go take a look at the TBR card for the books that I've kind of like designated for this to see what starts with A. Okay, so we actually have a couple of options here. This one, and this one. Okay, so we actually have 3 options for this. The first one I have here is Autumn of the Grimoire by J.L. Vampa, and this is supposed to be kind of like a witchy, very atmospheric kind of book. The next one I have is Mate by Ali Hazelwood, because I can also do author name, and I am very excited to read this because I really want to read this year before like the season is over. And then the other one I have is Willing Prey by Ali Oleander, also starts with an A. And I think this is kind of like a kink or dark romance, but I'm not really in the mood for this one right now, so I think I'm going to eliminate this one, and I'm going to choose between the 2 of these. Now, this is the second book after Bride, and I loved Bride. Bride was a 5-star read for me, and this one I think continues the story of her friend, so I have very high expectations for this. Also, my friends are reading it right now, and they're absolutely loving it. Some of them even more so than Bride, so I'm very, very excited for this one. But I think I'm going to choose this because this is a strictly autumn book, so you have to basically read this in September, October, November, and since the month is almost over, I don't want to miss my chance this year to read this book because I feel like I could still probably read Mate in December if I really needed to, or I'll probably just pick this up right after this one. But I definitely don't want to miss my chance to read this one this year, and I don't want to wait until next year to read this. So I think I'm going to pick this one up for this video, also because I haven't really seen anybody vlog this yet or like talk about this. So I think this is the one we're going to go with. We're going with Autumn of the Grimoire by J.L. Vampa, and that is going to be our next read. Good morning. So last night's event was really, really fun. There was actually 4 authors there. It was Kate Goldbeck, Lindsay Kelk, Melanie Sweeney, and Nina Kumar. And I have seen Nina Kumar before, and I do have one of her books signed already, so I didn't get one signed by her. And the other 3 authors would be new to me, so I will definitely check out their books, but I haven't read anything by them either. And same goes for Kate Goldbeck, but I did go there to see her and meet her and pick up her new releases because I've been hearing really good things about them, and my friend has read them and she really liked them. They're like pretty highly rated, I would say, overall. So I wanted to get those 2 books, and I picked up You Again and her new release, Daddy Issues. This is the one that she's on tour with right now. So I'm really happy I got to meet her, and she did end up signing both of the books for me. And this one, You Again, I think this is kind of like based on the rom-com When Harry Met Sally, and it's enemies to friends to lovers kind of story. Very fall, if you can't tell by the cover. I haven't actually seen that movie, so I'm probably gonna have to watch that before I read this book, or maybe watch the movie after I read the book. But I think I'm gonna save this one for next fall, like next year. The cover is absolutely stunning. It's just completely giving fall, and it just sounds really good. And then her new release that she was on tour for is Daddy Issues, and she did sign this as well, and she drew a little chili pepper because apparently the male main character in this is like the manager of a Chili's. So like Chili's was like this whole like theme of the night, and I thought it was so funny and and so cute. And she did also hand out like little chili pepper necklaces for everybody to take that was at the event, which is so cute. So I really appreciated that. That's a nice little gesture. Haven't seen that before. And I think this book is kind of loosely based on Failure to Launch, the movie with Matthew McConaughey. Kate Goldbeck said that her little niche is like writing books based on rom-coms. So she had When Harry Met Sally. This apparently is based on Failure to Launch, and she's coming out with another book, I think sometime next year maybe, that is potentially going to be based on How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which I'm so excited about because I love that rom-com. That's like my favorite rom-com. So that would be so funny. I would really love to read that book as well. So if she does come out with it, I'm definitely going to get that and read that. But I'm very excited for this one. This one is a single dad, kind of neighbors, forced proximity neighbors. It's also an age gap, and he is the manager of a Chili's, and I think there's something related to like comic books in here, and that's like where the part of the title Issues is kind of like based on, like, because there's some sort of reference to comic books in here. And she did also hand out like a little comic book page which has Batman on it, which is so cute. So I'm very excited for this one, and I did really love the movie Failure to Launch. I thought it was so funny. So I'm definitely going to be looking for those Easter eggs when I read this. So those are the two books I picked up yesterday at the event. I'm very happy about that. I probably won't be able to get to them this year, but I'll definitely try to read them soon, like early next year or something like that, and maybe You Again I'll save for the fall. But I also have an update for you guys on Autumn of the Grimoire. I read to chapter 17, which is page 211, so I'm about halfway done. This is the Solstice Sisters series, and it follows the four sisters. Like there's two sisters of the equinox and two sisters of the solstice. So there's Sister Autumn, which this book is based on. There's Sister Winter, which is Gwendolyn, and she's got her own book, like the next book in the series. Then there's Celeste, who is Sister Summer, and then Sorsha, who is Sister Spring. And I don't know if Spring has a book out or if Summer is the one that doesn't have the book out yet, but 3 of the books in the series are out. I think 1 is still going to be published, I think maybe next year or something like that. So this one follows Agatha, who is Sister Autumn, and they're all witches. She's 300 years old. She lives this sort of solitary existence in like this little cottage in the forest. It's so sweet, so quaint, so cute. It's set in the autumn. She's got a little familiar that's like a bat, and he's so cute. And every season on the equinox or on the solstice, which is their birthdays, they can only meet, and they cannot see each other or meet with each other outside of that because some bad things will happen. They're also in possession of this book, which is called the Grimoire, and that book contains instructions written by the gods. Like I think Hespa was their goddess or something like that, but every solstice and every equinox, one of the sisters gets the book, and then they are provided instructions in the Grimoire of what they need to do during their season. They get kind of like a quest or like an assignment that they need to complete before the season is over. Now, the sisters are thought to be a legend. Nobody thinks that they exist, but they do in fact exist, and all of the assignments that they get from the Grimoire essentially kind of like impact history in some way. So they have to kind of get involved and change the course of history in a specific way. They don't always know why or what it means, but those are their assignments, and that's what they have to do. And Agatha has always been given the bad assignments. She gets like the murders. She basically has to like kill people, kill kings, or unleash a plague of some sort and stuff like that, because for some reason she's kind of been designated to be Hespa's like brutal hand, whereas her sisters, like the Spring and the Summer, sometimes they get like really nice assignments where they like save a baby or something, you know? So she's kind of like salty about that, as she should be, because who wants to do all the dirty work all the time? But she doesn't really have any choice in the matter. So they meet on the fall equinox, and she gets the Grimoire and she gets her assignment for this year. And this assignment essentially requires her to go into this like neighboring town, to like travel into this neighboring town to meet with the Grand Magus. I think you say it Magus or Magus, I don't know. He lives in the castle, and she essentially needs to meet with him. And then it continues to say that she needs to marry the crowned prince before all the leaves fall for the season. So she's got like not a lot of time to do that. It's already fall, the leaves are starting to fall, and she's got to essentially go to this castle, convince them to let her in, convince them to let her see the prince, and then somehow get him to marry her. And she doesn't know the reason why, and she doesn't really know how she's going to do that. However, it's not all bad, because apparently there was this prophecy where this woman dressed in black but not for a funeral is going to show up at their doorstep. She's going to have like a creature of the night with her, which was her familiar, her bat. And so she shows up, and like it kind of like plays out into this prophecy that they were described that they should expect. They didn't know when the prophecy was going to happen. They just knew that it was coming, but they didn't know which prince's lifetime it was going to happen in. And their story is like, the way that they're thinking about it is that she's supposed to unite the kingdom, because she's supposed to be a peasant and she's supposed to basically be the representation of the peasants in the castle. So the prince is supposed to marry a peasant. She's going to be like their representation. They're going to feel seen. They're going to feel more heard. And then the kingdom is going to do better overall. They're going to feel like more united and everything, you know? So like that's kind of like what the kingdom is thinking, like what the court is thinking. Whereas she's just kind of like following her orders from the grimoire. Now there's also something happening behind the scenes. Like I don't really know, but there's like another side character in here that's kind of like a little iffy to me. Like I think there's something else going on behind the scenes. I'm getting little inklings that there's going to be some sort of mystery that needs to be uncovered. And I'm also very interested to know why she was chosen to do this specific task, because to me the kingdom doesn't seem very like not united, you know? The peasants aren't really revolting or anything like that, so I'm like really curious as to why they thought that they need to do this, because none of that has been explained yet. So it's interesting in that sense. However, once she got to the castle, it all became kind of like the court setting, and it's no longer like that cozy fall cottage in the forest kind of life that she was living before, and the fall vibes kind of did disappear. So I'm a little bit disappointed about that, but I am curious to know what's going to happen. The prince that she's supposed to marry, his name is Prince Grimm. That's like his nickname. His real name is like Prince Thackeray or something like that, but he goes by Prince Grimm. Like his friends call him Prince Grimm, and he seems pretty decent. They have a little bit of banter between them. Obviously he doesn't want to marry her. He doesn't really understand why he's got to marry her. She doesn't really want to marry him either, but she's doing it because that's her assignment. So they're butting heads a little bit, but they are having kind of like pretty good chemistry, I would say. Like the banter between them is pretty good, I would say, and the writing so far in this book is also pretty good. So I'm interested to know what's going to happen with like the politics of the court. I'm a little disappointed about the setting changing, and it's no longer kind of like this cute fall setting that I was expecting going into this book, but it is still very interesting nonetheless. So I'm going to continue reading and then probably check in with you guys later today when I'm done with the book, because I should be able to finish this today. I have like less than half of the book to go. Hi guys, so I finished Autumn of the Grimoire, and this one was maybe a little bit disappointing, I would say, because it just never really got back to that atmospheric setting that I was really hoping this book would have, like that it started with. Once she kind of got to the castle, it all kind of like ended with the atmospheric fall vibes that I was really hoping this book would have. I was really hoping that it would return to that at some point during the book, but it just never did. And it was just like the court setting the entire time, and just like the kingdom's politics and figuring out that stuff, which I was, in all honesty, a little bit disappointed by, because I was kind of just expecting something else and I was really hoping for something else. Not to say that it was bad in any way, it was just kind of like not what I had wanted going into this book. So I'm just feeling a little bit disappointed by that. The second half of the book did pick up a lot more in terms of like the things that were going on, and I did mention in my last clip that I suspected one of the side characters, Mila, to be like up to something, and she was. There was like a twist in there that I was definitely not expecting, like with her and Grimm and like what they are and like what they were doing. I never would have guessed that, even though maybe I could have, you know, like if I really like sat down and thought about it, maybe I could have like come to that conclusion and kind of figured something out related to them, but I just didn't. So that was a little bit of a surprise, but I don't think that it really redeemed the book that much for me, because I was just missing that atmospheric feeling that I was like really looking for in this book. I will say that I did like their chemistry. chemistry. Their romance could have been developed a little bit more. I thought they had a really good base in terms of like the banter and the way that they spoke to each other and how they built trust with each other. So there was like a good foundation between them, but I do feel like the romantic portion of that could have been developed a lot more, and it was lacking a little bit in that sense, even though they did have that chemistry. And I think I had a hard time really caring about these characters. You know, I had a really hard time like connecting to any of the characters. I had a really hard time caring about what they were doing. I didn't really build an attachment to anybody in this book really, so that was a little bit disappointing as well. And I feel like that's a very important thing to do when you're reading a book, like, is to build some sort of attachment to somebody, at least one character in the book. And I just kind of wasn't feeling that. Like, as soon as like she kind of left her like quaint little life, I just kind of like stopped caring about her that much, you know? So I definitely wouldn't say that this was a bad book. It was definitely interesting in its own way, but it just wasn't what I was looking for. I had a hard time getting into it, and I had a hard time just kind of like connecting with any of the characters. And I was just really hoping for like a really good atmospheric fall vibe book with the leaves and like the changing colors and the weather and like all that stuff, which it did in the very beginning, but it was very short. Like, it just all ended once she got to the castle, you know what I mean? And another thing that I noticed in this book that I kind of wasn't a fan of, because she is supposed to be a witch, she didn't really use her magic once she got to the castle because she didn't want to get found out for being a witch, so she didn't really use her magic at all, and it just kind of felt like a normal court story. So I felt like that took away from the story a lot too, because I wanted to see at least her kind of like using her magic here and there, like a lot more of that, which we didn't really get in this book. So with that being said, I think I'm going to rate this one 3.5 stars because there were aspects of it that I did really enjoy, and it did move pretty quickly, especially in the second half, and the beginning of it was really good, but it did drag a little bit with the court politics and stuff like that in the middle, which I wasn't that interested in, and I wasn't really that invested. I still think a 3.5 is a pretty solid rating. It's definitely not a bad book. I definitely didn't dislike it. I was just kind of expecting something else, but there were still aspects of this that I did really enjoy. In terms of continuing the series, I'm not 100% sure yet if I will continue the series. Maybe one day when I'm kind of like in the mood, I'll think about it a little bit more, but it's not something that I really want to pick up like right now, like immediately. So I think I'm going to hold off for a little while and getting any other books, and we'll see how I feel once I kind of marinate on this and had some time to think about it and like kind of like sit with it, you know? So that's it for this book, and that concludes this reading vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know down in the comments below if you've read this book and what your thoughts were. I would really love to know. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you made it to this part in the video, please leave me an autumn leaf emoji to let me know that you watched all the way through. I would really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.